Hello, hello. Happy Moon Day. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Oof. One of the things I think about all the time is the fact that Ayurveda is a form of indigenous medicine, and that due to the unique history of the Indian subcontinent, that Ayurveda has been preserved for thousands of years, and what is originally, this healing system that arises out of indigenous peoples, right? Collecting plants from their local environment and learning how to eat in tune with the seasons. And I mean, for most of human history, there's no choice but to eat with the seasons, right? It's only quite recently that we've had to relearn how to do that. And so there are really beautiful healing traditions from indigenous traditions all over the world, right? Native American peoples also had complex systems of herbalism and all sorts of remedies, right? They are fully formed civilizations. They had healing and medical practices that they used to keep each other happy and healthy. And it's only through genocidal colonialism that we have lost access to most of those traditions, and a lot of Ayurveda has been lost in the mix as well. But it's mostly the essence of it is still preserved, and so very grateful for that. Very grateful to be in the downline of the Ayurvedic tradition, right? Somehow, my life has led me to a place where I'm the recipient and also I both receive and I give the knowledge, right? And so I feel incredibly grateful for that, and that's one of the ways that I honor Indigenous Peoples Day, and I think about this all the time, and I'm very sort of conspicuously aware of being a well-off white male, getting paid to share this indigenous medicine, right? And it's complicated in that way. And how I understand that is that perhaps the people who can hear it from me would not otherwise have access to it, would not otherwise hear it or be interested in it. And so I hope to be participating in its propagation and vitalization by giving my life to it. That's how I understand it in my own head and heart. So I've been thinking about that today. The other thing that I'm thinking about today is that Mercury is stationed retrograde. So that means that Mercury is cruising along, slowing down, stop, and is about to turn backwards again. So it turns retrograde tomorrow for about 3 weeks until November 2nd. Yeah. Is there anything going on November 2nd, November 3rd? Yeah, so we got from now until the election, Mercury is retrograde. So one of the things that's been happening with me this week is the internet in my building is basically off. Not quite, but pretty close. And there's been uproar amongst all the people who live in the building that wait, is it my device? Is the internet okay? Like, what's happening? And so I've got my little portable internet is what I'm using right now. This Skyroam thing is very, very cool. A little portable device takes me all over the world. But so that's what I'm using right now because the internet is too slow to stream anything. And that just happened this week, right? These times when the planets slow down to a complete stop, these are the most powerful moments of the retrograde, right? And so right at the beginning and then right at the end. So Mercury will be stationed direct in the first degrees of Libra when this election takes place next month. So I'm going to be watching out. Again, like the mail is probably still the safest way to submit your ballot. If you can, like I know in Denver, there's lots of places like you can go to the place and put it in the mailbox at the place where they're going to count the votes. If you can do that, right? Like, you know that it's going to be signed. And I'm very, very grateful that I was able to submit my ballot completely digitally, and the ballot tracks kept, let me know that it's been accepted for counting and it's all good to go. So I'm happy about that. And again, the mail is going to be fine, but hey, Mercury is now turning retrograde, and things just get a little bit backed up, a little bit wonky. There's just miscommunication, right? You're saying one thing and it gets heard as something totally else, and so we just need to be very, very careful with that. And of course, it depends where Mercury is in your chart, where Libra is in your chart, and where, because Mercury is retrograde about 1/3 of the time, right? And so while this is a very popular astrological concept, it also gets a little bit too much credit, I think. So the social media showed me a meme the other day, which I think was making a very valid point, that basically it was saying, with a corrupt economic system and political chaos and oppression and, aggressive imperialist wars, like, no, but you're depressed because of an optical illusion that makes it look like a planet is moving backwards when it's really not, right? And so sort of making this very valid point. And the planets are like the hands on a clock, right? They don't make us do anything, but they indicate what time it is, and at certain times, certain things are more likely to happen. So just a time to be extra careful with what you're saying, how you're saying it. The other thing that's happening right now is Mars is retrograde, and most powerful right now, like especially today. Right, hey Mara, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I love you. Oh, and hey Meredith, I'm just seeing these notifications pop up. Hey Meredith, if you're still here, good to see you as well. Okay, today is actually a really, really interesting day, in that, so Mercury is stationed retrograde, sort of has come to a standstill, and is very close to the Earth as well. Retrograde planets typically are at their closest point. So the planet is closest and totally standing still. And so that's a very intense representation of that energy, right? That's why we focus on retrogrades. Mars is as close as it's going to get to the Earth for the next 15 years, right? And so Mars is super powerful and retrograding in the sign of Pisces. Whew. And so I felt it today. The impulse towards some, shall we say, impatience and frustration that I felt really strongly, and then couldn't figure out how to communicate it. And it's been a big theme for me this week. And mostly I've been erring on the side of not saying anything and just doing push-ups and sprinting and that sort of thing, because that seems to be the safest outlet for that sort of energy. Really intense dancing also really helps. It helps to give. Mars is a very explosive energy, and if it gets compressed and repressed for too long, it will explode. And especially when Mercury is retrograde, it's likely to come out sideways or in these weird unexpected ways. So to give it that, it's like the pressure cooker. So you gotta flick the valve and let it discharge a little bit. Otherwise, it could explode like a bomb. So yeah, I want to be really, really careful with how you're feeling and how you're communicating about what you're feeling. And of course, this is always true, but it's especially potent right now, and I've been hearing from people that the frustration, the irritation, the impatience is really building, and that's Mars being really, really close. Again, this is as close as Mars is going to get to the planet, to planet Earth until 2035. So that energy is really, really intense, that Mars quality, and so if we can harness that and use it as the warrior, right? We want to be warriors and not soldiers, right? The soldier just sort of does what they're told and marches in lockstep. The warrior wields discernment and takes skillful action, and only fights if he absolutely has to. And so to give that explosive power, somewhere to go that is productive, right? I use this metaphor all the time of a car engine, right? The little explosions of a car engine can drive you across the country and accomplish a whole lot of work in the world, right? They do incredible, the work of 300 horses, right? And if the piston fires improperly, if that explosion is not well contained in it, or if the exhaust pipe is clogged up, instead of driving across the country and doing all of this work and moving you forward, you'll end up exploded on the side of the road. How long is Mars in retrograde? Okay, Mars goes from Pisces back into Aries on December 23rd. Let me see if I have it in my notes here when it actually turns direct again. Mercury is direct on the 3rd of November. I don't have it in my notes what that day is. Let me see. I can run the chart, because that's a really good question. When is Mercury, or when is Mars direct again? Let's just have a look. So I'm looking on my little app here, and I'm going to. I love this app because we can time travel, right? So I've got, I don't know how well you can see this, but I can time increments, right? We can move forward 1 day, 10 days, 1 month at a time. And as we move that forward, we can see the planets move around. And so this astrology is the best form of time travel that we've invented so far. Not that we've invented astrology, discovered. Best form of time travel that we've discovered. Okay, let's look and see here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Too far, too fast. Maybe I had too much, too fast. 13th of November. The 13th of November is when, is the last day that Mars will be retrograde, and on the 14th, it will be stationed direct and starting to move forward again. And then it moves from Pisces back into Aries, its own sign, on December 23rd. I've talked about this a lot, but the astrology for November and December is dynamic, shall we say. It's exciting. Tumultuous is another word that we could use. There's a lot going on. Grand conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter on the 21st of December. In my little apartment here, I've got a little balcony, and I can see like Jupiter and Saturn about this time at night. It's a little after 9 p.m. here in Lisbon, and I can see Jupiter and Saturn right next to each other, and I'm slowly watching them like just drift. Jupiter sort of catching up with Saturn, and the drama of that is building. Yeah. So all of that is very much happening, and so one of the things. Okay, so push-ups are really, really helping me, and journaling. Always, right? Journaling as the sort of emotional digestive process, and I, especially with Mercury now retrograde for the next 3 weeks, I want to be really, really like. I was doing this the other day, preparing for a hard conversation, and I knew ahead of time, I was feeling really big feels about it, and like, oh man, like I am nervous that I'm gonna say some things that I don't really want to say, right? I don't want. This person probably doesn't deserve the amount of anger that I'm feeling, right? And so to be able to catch that and know, like, okay, this is probably out of proportion to the situation. So I'm going to do some writing because I knew that I needed some prepared phrases. I knew that I needed to just do a little of pre-digestion, needed to cook my thoughts and feelings in order to prepare a meal that would be acceptable and digestible to this other person. So it's okay. It's fine. But journaling really, really, really helps. So the other thing I want to make sure I mention is, in my last newsletter, I announced that I would be hosting some chanting for the upcoming Navaratri. Navaratri is, for those who might not know, is the 9 nights of the goddess, where we celebrate Durga Ma. Well, we celebrate all forms of the goddess: the crone, the young, beautiful, fertile teenage woman, the child, the mother. Every role of all the different forms of the feminine is the focus of this 9 nights of deep prayer and ceremony. And so I suggested that I would be doing some chanting as a way to mark this time of year, because I know a lot of people are not going to be able to go in person. Like, I would normally be at Alandi Ashram in Boulder for these 9 nights doing fire ceremony and chanting, but that's not going to happen this year for a variety of reasons. And so I wanted to offer the support of that reference point to others. And what I am realizing is that, well, I also need that support. And so what I'm going to do instead, just yesterday, one of my teachers, Freedom Cole, sent out a seasonal update, and he is involved with the Lalita Chandika Ashram, which I believe is in Grass Valley, California. And so they are going to put their Navaratri ceremonies on Zoom, and so I'm going to participate in that. And so that's going to go from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. That is 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. here in Lisbon. So I'm committing to be there from 4 to 6 a.m. That's my commitment, and I would invite everyone to do that. It's really nice to have the support of community in these ceremonies, and especially if it's early in the morning, late at night, having other people there to chant and give you that, to feed off of that energy is really, really valuable. That'll be much nicer than just sort of, I don't know, I wasn't clear what I was going to do, but my thought was going to get on Instagram Live and chant Mahamrityunjaya mantras for 45 minutes, which is nice practice for me, but also, like, I don't know how nice that is for anybody else out there. So I would encourage everyone to join me at Lalita Chandika Ashram via Zoom. And what will I do? I'll create a blog post on my site with the links to that. I also have a new moon newsletter coming out Friday this week. And so if you're not signed up for my newsletter, please do that. Whole month's worth of updates, and I'm going to, MC, love you, good to see you. Whole bunch of updates, and I think there's gonna be a little bit of a format change this month. I've been feeling these newsletters are bulky. They're big and long, and they're full of content. They've got guided meditations and journal prompts and sort of specific activities you can do to align yourself with the stars, and as well as pretty detailed analysis of the major astrological events of the month. And I do a video, and the last couple months I've been writing a poem. That's sort of been a spontaneous creation, which I've really enjoyed. So I'm going to change the format a little bit, and I think spread out that information over the course of the month. So we shall see. That's about what I came to talk about today. It's so lovely to see all of you here. And if there are any other questions, I'm happy to chat, happy to hang out. what are you guys feeling? What's happening in your life? Any Mars issues going on out there? Has anybody else's internet crapped out this week? And like weird communication stuff is happening. So this Mercury retrograde moment, I've been getting, like, how the spam phone calls these days are. It's basically like the first 5 digits of your own phone number, and it's a little bit different. And so you can see that. Okay, so you don't answer. But this week I got, like, in the course of like 20 minutes, I got 5 voicemails from this man who was like, just quit calling this number. And oh yeah, you're never even there when I call back. And it was just like, it was this very strange thing. And it was as if I had been spamming him, as if he like I think he was receiving spam phone calls and then dialing my number in response and leaving me these messages. And it's just like, it's very weird. And but strikes like total Mercury retrograde nonsense. So that's the sort of thing. Joel, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. I think we get to hang out tomorrow. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay. I think that might be it for this week. This is your new Moon Boon. And, okay, Jolie is saying she feels quiet and introverted lately. Yeah. And so let's look at your chart tomorrow and see where these retrogrades are showing up, because the general interpretation of the retrograde cycle is it internalizes what is otherwise an outgoing energy. And so with Mercury, what I always think about is, Mercury is retrograde about 1/3 of the time. And so it's like you spend about 2/3 of the time sort of being outgoing, talking, and then 1/3 of the time you want to, okay, like, let's think about, like, is what I'm saying being heard? You sort of like do this this internal checking, like, like, do I need to change my speech patterns? Do I need to, it's not quite as simple as like talking and listening, because that 2/3, 1/3 ratio doesn't work in that. But it's so I think like organizing my files on my computer, right? When I'm creating content and blogs and all these sort of things, like I'm grabbing screenshots and pulling images and creating documents and sort of a little bit haphazard, right? And so that's about 2/3 of the time. And then I want to spend 1/3 of the time going back and go, okay, this image I want to use again, make sure I have access to it, so I'm going to relabel it and put it in this folder. And this document belongs to these other documents over here. And sort of that sort of back of the house reorganizing, that's the appropriate activity for Mercury retrograde time. The rest of the time it's about publishing, right? Putting stuff out there. Meredith is asking, does Mercury go direct before the election? Mercury goes direct on November 3rd, is what my notes just told me. So it'll be stationed direct, right? So okay, right now, Mercury, okay, moving forward, has now come to a standstill. And as of tomorrow, like almost right now, it starts moving backwards. And then on November 3rd, it will have been moving backwards, and it will come to a standstill on November 3rd. Fuck. And then start moving forward again. So, God help us. Sort of what I have to say about that. My precise astrological analysis is, please God save us. Yeah. Mara, you're feeling introverted as well, huh? Yeah. Well, you've been publishing some really beautiful content, and so these retrograde moments are when we, it's like the mining period, right? And it's when we go internalize all of that energy and go deep, and when we come out of it, we've got some fresh information about ourselves, about our inner worlds, and that inner cosmos that we can then publish, talk about. Meredith, what does it mean? Yeah, it means vote early. Hopefully you've already voted. It means drop your ballot off directly if you can. It means don't wait till election day to go vote, right? Election day is the very last moment you can possibly vote, right? Way, way better to do it as early as possible. You're so welcome, Mara. So just do it as soon as possible, and see if you can help other people vote. Yeah, and then also the other thing to emphasize is not to expect a result on election night. Think of it as election month. Because with the mail-in ballots, there's this whole other process that has to go through to validate and certify them. It's like all the sort of fear-mongering around the fraud, like the instances of fraud in mail-in voting is so minuscule. It's actually, it's like statistically negligible. It's so, there's like multiple, 0.000000001 sort of type statistic in terms of fraud. And, they got these systems where they're checking signatures. Like I've had problems because my signature didn't match perfectly. And so that I had to go through a whole process. And so, but that it takes time. And so to just don't expect a result election night. Don't stay up and watch. It's like, it's going to be like an eclipse. Like it's this really interesting thing that's happening, but the best advice is really to stay indoors and like pray and go to sleep, go meditate instead and expect it's going to be a couple weeks before we really get a result. That's the smart money talking right there. So, yeah. The stock, speaking of money, the stock markets are going to hate that. The stock markets hate uncertainty, right? The economy really, even if it's going to mean higher taxes, at least they would like to know that so they can make moves accordingly. The uncertainty is going to be hard on stock markets. So, personally, I recently made a small bet shorting the S&P 500, expecting that the S&P 500 is going to go down in November and December, basically, is my thought. So that's my sort of financial disclosure for the day. Yeah. Just because of the chaos, just because uncertainty. The news media has trained us to get a result the night of the election, and that's just not going to be the case. And so when we don't know who's going to be president, it's the markets don't like that. But it'll be sorted out at least by January. Yeah. All right, guys. It's lovely to hang out with you, but it's approaching my bedtime here, and so take care. Send me a note, Meredith. I owe you an email. I'm gonna respond right now. Let's make sure you're all sorted out and moving towards health and happiness, as always. Great. See you tomorrow, Jolie, and I'll see all of you soon. Again, if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, there's a big juicy new moon newsletter coming out later this week. So you can go to vedadave.com and check that out. There will be a link to the Lalita Chandika Ashram Navaratri offering in the library on vedadave.com, all that. Mara, please, I would love to see you in Portugal as soon as you can get here. It'd be great. Okay, take care, everybody. Love you. See you soon.